Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Focus on Liberia. My name is Dennis Jai, and we're broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. Tonight is What Catch Your Heart? Is there any issue that keep you up at night? Is there anything about Liberia that is burning in your heart that you want to share? Tonight, I've invited fellow Liberians, and we're going to be discussing what catch your heart. Okay, great, Kumar. You're joining us from Monrovia. All right, we have our invitees here, our panelists, and we just go around the room 1 minute at a time to just introduce yourself. Let me start with Affect Manager Maurice Kruma. Maurice?
Hello, yeah, hi, Dennis. Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Perfect Manager Morris Kroma. That's how everybody call me, and I'm happy to be here tonight.
Thank you. Let me go to Tavina.
Hi there, good evening. My name is Talvina Cole and I am from Texas, or I live in Texas. Glad to be on.
We want to welcome Dr. Eric Z. M. Boto to What Catch Your Heart. Eric?
Thank you. I'm Eric Ziamboto from Pennsylvania. Tonight, I would like to discuss a bit on publication. What
Thank
are
you.
the elements to consider when one wants to publish a book, article, or something to the public, especially Liberian public?
Thank you. Last but not the least, welcoming for the first time on Focus on Liberia. Joining us from Monrovia, Liberia is Yuna Kumba Thompson. Yuna, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay. Thank you for the invite.
Thank you. We want to welcome all our viewers from across the globe. This is Focus on Liberia. Every other time, at least once a month, we give the opportunity to our guests to bring up their own issues so that we can discuss it. Throughout the month, we talk about issues. We bring out the topic and invite people. This time, we want to turn it around and say, tell us anything that is keeping you up at night that you want to share with the public. We also want to encourage our viewers. If you call, don't worry about what catch their heart. What catch your heart is what we'll be going through tonight. So briefly, we're going to go around the room and start with you. Just introduce what catch your heart. Let me start with Tavina this time. Tavina, what catch your heart?
There's so many things, but we'll start with one. I think in order of priority, the first thing is this quote unquote book or memoir of Mr. We Are, President We Are. But more important, a certain extract from the book, chapter 13, and then the reaction of women in politics to the book and women in leadership in Liberia about the book. I think that's the first thing. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
That's the first thing that catch my heart.
Thank you. Thank you. Let me go to Dr. Eric Z. M. Boto. Just introduce to our viewers what catch your heart.
Okay, thank you. I think my sister Tavina and I we will be stepping on each other's toes, but what catches my heart has to do with publication in Liberia. It may not necessarily be about this book that was recently published, but what to consider when one wants to publish a book. Because publication has to do with two main sources, the primary source and your secondary sources. So in Liberia, if looking at the statistics about the illiteracy rate, we got to be
I'm sorry, but I can't hear any of them.
To our audience.
Thank you, Dr. Boto. That's the intro. You're not able to hear anybody?
Nope, only you.
Okay. Did anyone call you during the when you were on? Call your phone?
No.
Okay. Let's go to you. What catch your heart?
Well, always keeping me up and my mind busy. First and foremost, women, gender, and politics, governance as a whole, the status of women in Liberia and girls, and what is it that we need to do to make a difference, to change the system, to change patriarchy, to hold people accountable, and to have better governance. That's it.
Thank you so much. Perfect Manager Maurice Kurman, what catch your hat?
Thank you again, Dennis, for the opportunity to be here. The one thing that is really on my heart of late, like I told you this afternoon, is the fact that we have a growing number of young men and women that are, continuing to be victims of, drug use in our country, and we are demeaning them and calling them zogos, unfortunately, but they are citizens of the state, and you know the government and the people, the citizens, the actual clean clothes citizens, are looking at these people as public nuisance, but nothing is being done, and they pose potential threat to the existence of the state. So it's on my heart, and I'm hoping that we can, kind of chat about it today a little bit.
Thank you so much. And to our viewers watching now and who will watch later, if there's anything burning in your heart, please put that in the comments. We're going to open the phone lines later on so that you can share with us what catch your hat. So let's begin the discussion. And we'll start with Dr. Boto. Dr. Boto, it's time now to go into the issue that is keeping you up at night. Tell the Liberian people what catch your hat.
That's the phrase when I read it from your message, I said, oh wow. Okay. Liberia, our population, if you look at the Liberian population according to statistics, we have a huge number of illiteracy rate in the country. So that means the gullibility, the ability to just receive and believe something.
I was hearing at
easy.
first.
We can hear you, and you're not hearing Dr. Boto.
I heard it. I think I heard it. Secondly, he must have been the one that spoke first. The second, I heard him, but now I'm not hearing him.
Can you put your volume up? Maybe it's your volume.
Now I hear you.
Okay.
Oh.
So it's you doing pick and choose.
So, Joe, whatever you doing is working.
It looks
So,
so,
just
but
leave it.
one of the both of y'all not hearing. I didn't hear them. Now I hear you very clear. The volume
You
is
hearing
very
me?
high.
You can hear me now?
Can you hear Eric?
Can you hear me?
No,
Can you hear me?
only
Mrs.
Dr.
Thompson?
Only Morris.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay,
Okay,
good.
let me see what I can do here.
No, it's not. It's not.
No, it's not your
you.
end. It's from her.
It's not you. It's not you, Boto. So we'll try to. It's not you, Boto. Dr. Boto.
Yeah.
It's not you. You can take that off. It's the problem is not from you.
She said she can't hear me, so I thought I could use the earpiece.
I can see you. I can see Morris. I haven't seen or heard Dr. Boto.
All right. Okay. Anyone you don't hear, I will relay that to you. So let's go, Dr. Boto. What catch your hat?
Okay, as I said, publication in Liberia, we have to be very careful, especially considering the illiteracy rate we have. Gullibility can destroy a nation easily, where whenever we publish something that our people will believe us without even doing a background check. Ethically, if one wants to publish, you got to always look at your sources. The primary sources, you got to always state where you're getting your information from. Because I could just write anything and then give it to the public, and no one will do a fact check, and they will believe it. So our sources in writing should always be stated so that we can be on the safe side. And sources, if you mention the sources, you have to give the person you're quoting from the credit that yes, this information I'm giving you is from this person. But if you just give a broad information without stating your source, it's questionable. It's very, very much questionable. It causes confusion and tension in the country. Example, case in point is this chapter 13 that we have recently that has become the boiling point. The information could be factual. And it also if it is factual, it could also be an information that the person requests for confidence in you, that privacy, that I'm giving this information to you privately. So if you publish it, then you have a case on hand, because not everything you just see you can publish. So I want to appeal to the Liberian public that when we are publishing, we should state our sources.
Thank you.
It's very much important. We should give the credit to those people that we are getting the information from. Yeah, you want to say? Yeah, go ahead.
And does it depend what you are writing? Does it depend on the book, the kind of book, or the kind of publication you're doing?
I didn't get a question. Can you please repeat
about
that
the
for me?
sources, about stating sources? Will it depend on what you are writing about? Will it depend on the type of book, the genre, and everything else you're writing about? Or
yes, because if you state your sources,
did you get the question?
Okay.
Are you on your phone? Why I said that you have to lean over before you get me? Are you not hearing
because
me?
Your line your line is breaking.
Are you using your computer or phone?
I'm using a computer.
Yeah, can you put the volume up to hear me quite well?
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
You saying in publication the ethics is you should cite your sources. I'm asking, does it depend on what kind of publication?
There is no information you can get out there that is not of your own without stating.
Okay.
Yeah. If you're giving out information and it is not of your own, then you got to state. If it is your own, then you got to also state that, yes. So no matter what the case is, you got to state the source. Either yours, who is the writer, or a primary source, or someone else's information.
Okay.
So it does not take anything away from it. You got to always let us know where that information coming from.
Thank you so much. So let's go around the room. Kumba, if you didn't hear Dr. Boto say the ethics of publication in Liberia, be able to state your source. State your source when you are publishing, because we have a gullible population. The illiteracy rate is high. Let me get your take.
I hope you can hear. But it's obvious. I think it's a given that in any publication, I'm an author. And so I don't understand what he means by publication, but any material, especially like what that is published, has to have sources, except it's fictional. Mm-hmm. So if it's a literary material, whether it's you writing somebody's autobiography, you still have to source it. So I think I'm not sure whether that is the key, but every publication, every author, everyone who publishes at least have a source, reference, source.
And here is the background of what Dr. Boto is saying. In chapter 13 of George Weah, The Dream, the Legend, the Rise to Power, the author state, and I quote, "She played a kind of hard-to-get modesty with him as he pursued her. This attitude made George Weah want Claude more. In confidence, he told close friends that other than her amazing characters, one of the main reasons he chose to marry Claire over a Liberian woman or any other woman for that matter was because she was blank, 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 blank." That's the reference.
No, it's not a reference. It's a writing there. Yeah, I'm sure if you have the book, he must have source materials. If it's anything questionable, whoever that needs to take it up, we're asking for his source. He must have done a research. He must have talked to people, because he said this, though it's not stated to whom, but I'm sure he has it. You don't have to incorporate it within the writing itself, but you can't have it as an appendix, or you do have it as a resource material. And frankly, on that note, with the writing in there, I think it's more about the writing style. I really don't understand why we're making so much issue of it. When the public is gullible, it is those who are reading, the person who forwarded the information, which I consider a disinformation, that is intentional. So let's assume he's writing this book about the legend, about George Weah. He's not a biographer of George Weah, but he's writing about the man, his public life, his social life, his family life. So he interviews, he talks to people. It's not, I don't think it's out of context or it's anything in degrading that Mr. George Weah said, okay, you asked me for example, and I'm talking to my, what do you like about your wife? What do you see? Why did you marry her? Why do you prefer her? The Bible says you who choose the man who finds a good woman finds a good thing. And he says in that the characteristics of her, there are so many basically, but that's part of it I love. He didn't say it in a way meant to degrade his wife, but rather to appreciate her sexuality. Now, if the writer didn't know the style of writing, he has not delved into romantic writing to translate that information that was giving him that, oh, this is how Mr. Weah feels about his wife. Of all the good characteristics, in addition, she has this super, I mean, you need to take it from there now while you wrote it and put it into the proper perspective so that even as we visualize it, we can appreciate from where it's coming from. So I think it's not so much about the publication. It's rather as we write, as people write, you ask yourself, what is it? Why are you writing? What are you writing? How is it you want to write? So I think in this situation, and they have different forms of writings. It's fictional, it's sensational, it's literature material. So I think based on this, to say, how books are published, we have to ask ourselves, what is it that we're talking about? Because failure to understand and make a deeper analysis, we turn to take things out of context and begin to look for all kinds of problems and create situations that necessarily didn't have to be there.
Thank you, Kumar. Dr. Boto, let me go back to you.
Yeah.
Your issue with this publication is sources were not cited, or is something else?
Thank you. I like the way she started it, that you got some writers will always make reference at the footnotes, or some will basically refer to you. But let's take that quote because it's the case in point. He said he spoke with some friends in confidence. Now it's a quotation. He's taking it from a source without telling us at the end of the book.
Sorry, I can't hear him.
I will relay that.
Without telling us at the end of the book where he took it from. It came out with ambiguity, just broad. That, and I can say, okay, I got this information from this place and then put it there. But if you not state where you got it from, if you want to conceal, that's fine. If you're concealing it, you should lead us to where it came from. But he only said from friends in confidence. Let's assume the person about whom he's writing has thousands of friends. Right. Thousands of close friends, and we interact with thousands of people every now and then. Who is that friend? Right. That's one. The second thing is there are code of conduct in publication. The code of conduct look at the readers' ages, it group them. When you're reading, when you're writing, or either if you're writing something or publishing through the media or in book, you got to take into consideration readers in ages. But I will come to that later. Right. But that particular code, there is no way we can trace it to a particular group or a particular person he got it from. He only cited it in that broad or in ambiguous manner. That's my concern.
Let me go to a perfect manager. But in that book, he listed people, close friends who provided information. It's part of the book. People like I'm not saying Zioka Wilson said, but he listed Zioka Wilson or Wea's brother and on and on and on.
Yeah, but it did not attribute it to
Right. No,
yeah.
we want
the attributive element of it that it came from this person,
right,
because it's a quote.
Okay. And Kuma, if you didn't hear that, he said it is a quote and it should be attributed to somebody, either in footnotes or in a bibliography or somewhere else, but it's not there. Let me go to Perfect Manager. Your take.
So, Dennis, before I address some of the things that Dr. Boto is saying, I want you to please read that quote again for me, because it seems like the context matter a whole lot. Can you just read the quote again for us?
Here is the quote. Quote, in quotation, she played a kind of hard to get modesty with him as he pursued her. This attitude made Judge Weah one cloud more. In confidence, he, meaning Judge Weah now, told close friends that other than her amazing characters, one of the main reasons he chose to marry Clark over a Liberian woman or any other woman for that matter was because she was tight, bleep, versatile in the bedroom, and actively aggressive in bed.
Okay.
He further explained that she does not remain lying down on her back, etc.
Okay. And I wanted to go over it because there are a few key things over there that I thought were very important. One is that the writer is saying that we are told some of his friends in confidence that this is why he chose to marry his wife, right? So if that friend of series of friends that he told that revealed some of the information to the author, then it's allowed for him to write about it and say, according to a close colleague, he can say that. And beyond that, this publication is not an autobiography that is endorsed by the person that is being written about. That's also allowed in academia. I can sit down now and collect information from all over about Barack Obama and write a book on Barack Obama. It's allowed.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's not a crime, right? But it's also permitted. If I want to get real authentic information, I can go to the person and say, I want to write about you, and I want to sit down with you for us to talk. I don't think they committed any academic intellectual crime. They did not, because some of the people they talked to were in Weah's orbit. They were very close to President Weah, and so we have to take plenty into consideration. Weah was a celebrity. He was a prominent soccer player at the time. He lived a legendary life. So people that are outside of Liberian circle want to hear about this man's life. So if someone who see an opportunity in there and decide that they want to write, they can write a tabloid. You can even sit down and write a tabloid and make stuff up that is not authenticated. You can write it and put it out there. It's not a crime. But if you want to write an academic paper, then you can follow the procedure that Dr. Boto is laying out now. If you want to be an academic, then yes, you have to go and find primary source and secondary sources, because you have to quote exactly what those people told you, and you have to make reference to all of the things that they say. But in a book that is written about somebody that is unauthorized, I don't see any crime in it. For me personally, I don't see the crime that is committed in there. I think it's okay. If somebody is offended by it, what they can do is to counter it and go sit down with the man himself and then write about his whole life and then counter whatever that book is about. That's how you do it.
Perfect Manager, his issue is not crime. He said it's unethical.
I don't see no ethical breach there either. I don't see any.
Let me cite an example.
Okay, cite an example, and then we go to Tavina.
There was a letter that was sent to.
I wish I could hear Tavina. I can't hear her.
They put me on mute today. They say on mute. No, I'm just joking.
There was a letter that was sent to Megan, the prince's wife, by her father. There was content of that letter that the tabloid published in 2010 or 2012.
Hold on, Dr. Boto. Kumba, can you go out and come back in and see if that will make a difference?
And probably some feedback from somebody's line.
I don't think I want to go back and go through the struggles of copying link and all of that, you know.
Okay.
We're having
All right.
some echo.
Echo from my
Yeah.
background.
No,
All right.
somebody. Anybody. It's okay though.
All right. Tavina,
Yes, sir.
this is an unauthorized biography, which we see a lot. I read newspaper a lot, and then sometimes they say, according to sources, they don't cite those sources, right? And so for this unauthorized biography, Dr. Boto is saying it is unethical to give a quote without telling us exactly who said it. What's your take?
Well, let me be the first to say that I'm not a writer. I'm not an author. I think I just recently, I don't want to claim that I'm an author. I co-authored a children's book the other day, but that doesn't make me an author in any way. So I don't know about all of that. But one thing that I know though, if you're going to talk the way he spoke about, quoting somebody else, and again, going back even on the very Amazon standards, what Amazon has are content guidelines. When you publish something, that you have to make sure that it doesn't violate other people's privacy, it doesn't violate other people's rights. So that's one thing there, and also the content is not offensive. So whether authorized or not authorized, and again, Dennis, based on the text messages that we've seen on Facebook, one from one of the authors to one of his friends, he asked a friend he wanted to get some information. His friend said, did you get permission? The friend said, he said no. He said, I'm going to publish it anyway. I reached out to him. We haven't gotten a response. I'm going to publish it anyway, if whether he responds or not. So that tells me that he didn't get authorization. How are you going to tell my story without hearing from me, even if you heard parts of it? But I don't know. I'm not a publisher, but logically, we're professional people. We're guided by professional standards. And again, I'm looking at Amazon standards as well. I read the standards in totality. I mean, there's some violations there. It doesn't meet the standards.
In other words, Tavina, you were saying the person being written about should approve it before you go ahead.
Well, in my opinion, if you're going to write about me, then you must get my approval, whether verbal or written, and you must let me be a part of the process. This is my story.
What if you don't allow me? If you don't let me, do I don't publish it?
It's a violation of my privacy. It depends what you try. It's a violation of my privacy in every way. I will sue you for content.
Right.
It's a violation of my privacy. You have to understand that it's a privacy violation. I mean, by professional standards, even if you're an author, you are guided by professional standards. You're going to write about my story without getting my permission? That's unacceptable, because some of your content may be offensive to me. And what are you trying to accomplish? Who are you? Who are your audience? Because it appears to me that the writers didn't even know, they were not sure who the audience were. Talk one thing about the lady being, and I can see it because I popular information, she's being vaginally tied, but also I pick you over Liberian women because Liberian women lay on their back and they lay like stiff animals and they don't do anything. How offensive can that be? How are you praising your wife? Then it also tells me that, because I know that one of the authors, he's married to a non-Liberian. So how is he different from George Weah? So you pick the woman you got now because Liberian women lay on their back after you've walked through all of them from high school to college life, and then you pick an American because I understand he has a Black American too.
Right. So Tavina, that would be a different issue, right? But as far as quoting, citing sources, and also you're saying you didn't get approval. So citing sources and not get approval, those are the key issues that Dr. Boto raising now. But let me go to Kumba, who's the author among us here. Kumba, can you hear me? What Tavina is saying is you cannot publish anything. She admits she's not an author, but you cannot publish anything about me without my approval. I can sue you.
I think I seem to agree with, speak on the line with Kroma. Certain books will require, of almost all publishers will require resources, but you don't have to name them into the book. That style of book that is being written. Right. So there's a big difference. I think for me, I'm an author. I'm not here to do PR for anybody book. I got my own book on Amazon called The Woman's Shoe on Shattered Glass. Okay, and it deals with all of these gender, these issues of society now. So I think the crux of the matter here is, if I want to look at that from a gender perspective, from a women's rights perspective, from a development side of it, politics, this is not, though we cannot separate the man, George Weah, the persona to the presidency today, but we have to see him as a man, as a human being, as one who had a non-political life long before this time. His orientation, his associations, are diverse. All right? I think that's the crux of the matter if you want to critique a book. If you want to critique it. And in critiquing it, we have to, we can't be biased. We can't, it is not our intent to read anything out of it, but probably to let us reflect. Every material is a learning material. So in critiquing that component of it from a gender perspective, from a women's rights and national, I don't see Mr. Weir did not call a group of men. I want to believe he's a father, he's a husband, and above all of those things. All right, and he chose his wife, and he's in a conversation, whether be his buddies. You have to talk to all of us. Talk in secrets. We'll say all kinds of things. Some are derogatory. Some are meant to compliment. All right. We may not be used to talking about sexuality. We may not be used to talking about bedroom affairs. So the man supposedly had a conversation with a friend or whoever it is, and he's telling you about his wife, not in a derogatory manner. He's telling you what he appreciates about her. He says all of the politics. So he goes deeper. But I mean, now, if we get that information, if I'm writing and the person who's writing does not have the skills per se in writing gender or romantic does not have the skills in romantic writing, definitely I want to believe, okay, this is who George is. He loves his wife. This is what he found attractive about his wife, and he appreciates this. If he was sensitive, if the writer was sensitive to the dynamics of our country, of our culture, and to gender, and being gender sensitive. In other words, in our culture, in the African culture, you don't say certain things about a woman. Even privately, you don't talk about it. You don't call the name, excuse me, the vagina. I'm going to say that. You don't call it. It's a shame thing. And, he wasn't sensitive to that. But I want us to let it be. It's not degrading. Okay? He may not like it. We don't like it. But that's what it is. And it's not, and I want to point the finger to those who read the material from the beginning and carried it the way they did and sensitized it in a way that it looked like it was something out of this car, that some crime had been done. And so-called Mr. Weir is like this. He talked about his wife and we in solidarity with his wife and make it national. It is not. It is a time for us to reflect on it and move from. You cannot weaponize women's bodies. You cannot weaponize the issues of women. And you cannot take advantage of the public because they are gullible and use it for political gains. Because you want to do a political score, someone has written, and you see that component to sensitize it, to either make George Weah look bad or to bring shame to his wife because he's talking about his wife, or there no shame in it, So
Thank you.
Tennis, please permit me, because I want to reference, because that's why the book is being sold. I want to reference Amazon standard and the content guideline. I think it's kind of buttress what or we kind of speak to more or what says you and I was saying in a way. and probably for education purposes. And I think I sent that. So I'm not going to read the whole thing, but just a few lines for this. And they talk about offensive content. And I'm just going to read a portion where it says that do not sell, we do not sell content, use content including, offensive content, including inappropriate things or something that is illegal or infringement content. But further, it goes on to say that we take violations of the laws and propriety of rights very seriously, and also talk about privacy, violation, trademarks, publicity, and violation of other rights. And so that's the concerning piece on top of it being, again, what we say, the content being unfiltered and the way it was. What was his intention? What were the audience? The author's intention. Were they trying to write a pornography? What were they trying to write?
Tavina, what is the offensive content or the pornographic content in that
so borderline pornography. So that's how I see it. That's why.
Because is it the name? Is it the name that starts with the D?
I would call it for what it is. It's a public information. For me, again.
So if you anytime you write vagina in a book, is that offensive? Is that what we're saying?
It is not. I've seen it. We must call it for what it is. Right. It is not offensive. I'm not saying for vagina is an offensive word, but the context in which it was used, that is the problem. The context in which it was used. What is he trying to accomplish? You have to understand who your audience. Besides, I'm not going to go to not getting authorization because I don't have proof of that. I can only go off on the text message that I saw. But the content, the way they wrote it, there's a way, and I said it, there's a way you would have written it. If people would have taken cues on it or motivation and say, you know what, I need to do better. He's praising it. Well, maybe I need to praise my wife a lot more. Right. But then you go on, you didn't stop there to say, I follow her for other things, but more importantly, because of her tight vagina. But then you go further to say, comparing her to all the women that I slept with and done.
So is the comparison piece that is offensive?
Yes. Liberian women, they just stayed down. All other women, not Liberian women.
Dennis.
All other women, I'm speaking, sir. Give me a second. So all other women that I have.
Don't buy it. You shouldn't buy it. Go buy my book.
Yeah, no, I would never buy that post. I says, I would never. But and my analysis is based on just the piece of it. Because even if it was free, I wouldn't read it. It's just not the style of book that I read. But
thank you.
But like I said, it's that compared the end of it. We don't get to the part when they start to type vaginally. But look at the end of it.
That's the thing that people find offensive. That's why they are using the first lady photo on their profile picture, because they see that this is an insult to the first lady.
It's not just her. It is her. It is Liberian women, and it is women at large, women globally.
How does that offend the first lady? How does that degrade or in any way does anything damaging to the first lady?
Okay, it's not just the first lady.
No, let's start with the first lady. Does this do anything to the first lady?
Okay, describing a woman's vagina.
Yeah. From
describing a vagina to giving a vivid description of sex in bed. It creates a pornographic picture. You described the organ and then went further to give explicit explanation on how the sex takes place in the bedroom.
How is that explicit?
He said she takes charge.
Right.
She takes charge. And she does not lie on her back until everything else is done. After he had explained about or described the
tightness,
the organ.
Right.
Now, what is the way of life of us?
Right. Okay, let me read this passage from you. It's in the Bible, Proverbs 5:18. Rejoice in the wife of your youth, a lovely deer, a graceful doe. Let her breast fill you at all times with delight. Be intoxicated always in her love. Let her breast fill you. Do you find that offensive?
Exactly.
No.
I'm interested in hearing the response.
If we look at
sorry, I can't hear it.
No, you didn't hear the Bible verse?
No,
I'm
she
here
heard
to
you,
watch
but she's
it.
not hearing Dr. Boto respond.
Okay. Dr. Boto, is that let your let
Let her
her
breast.
breast fill you at all times.
That's right.
What's wrong with that in Proverbs?
Okay. But this, let me go back to that biblical message.
Right.
That biblical message
It
is an
mentioned breast.
advice,
That's what
a
I want to
general
get across.
advice.
Yes.
It goes across to all of us as men.
Right.
Now, but that particular writing is directed at a particular person. A female, when she stands in public right now, everybody will reflect about the tightness of her virginity, about her vagina.
Because people have dirty minds. If
No,
somebody
it's not
describes
dirty mind
something,
because her vagina has been described in public.
all right.
And
Thank you so much.
how she has sex in bed has also been included.
Right.
Dennis.
Yeah,
So
go ahead, Papa
attention
Manager,
has
so we
been
can
drawn
conclude and
to
move.
her specifically. But what you just read was about a general advice to men.
No, because
It did not say,
Dr.
Eric,
Boto, the reason I asked that is we find, female body, we find it to be offensive, taboo. And I don't think we should look at it that way. If
It's
the
not
Bible
that-
mentioned
what
breast,
were they trying to? What they was say a sex education? Because you write books for a reason. So
Right,
what was
and
the
we
author
can-
trying to accomplish?
and we can ask the author, right? But here is the Bible talking about breast. So
It's an abomination.
if we cannot
The Bible was
mention,
Context,
acknowledging.
Dennis,
No, but
context,
Dennis.
context in
Yeah,
which
yeah,
it
but
was used.
I'm
Context.
coming to that. But if we cannot mention female body organ because it's a sex organ,
No, we are
then
not
the Bible
saying
is
the
repulsed.
point.
we are
Dennis.
not saying you cannot
Dennis.
mention female body, but if you mention a specific person in that kind of manner,
Okay.
then you already draw attention to that person in the mind.
Thank you. Let me go to Perfect Manager so we can move on to the
Yeah,
next.
Dennis, let me just make a quick point here. I'm listening to my brother Dr. Goto, and I'm troubled by some of the defense that he's trying to raise. Like I think, to be honest with you, Dr. Goto would give this book serious promotion just by the argument he's trying to make here. He would give serious promotion to it. Because first of all, just like you read that Bible verse, the Bible is a moral and conscious document that speak to all of us, right? So you have a book that talk about how we're supposed to, look forward to this end, to the end of life and the life after, and it tells you that the Bible give a complete depiction of what a man is supposed to perceive in a woman's breast. That one, you don't find that offensive, but when somebody says that, in a close circle, he told his friends, all of us, we are guilty of doing some of that. That when we sit down in our comfort zone with our friends, we say some stuff, consciously or subconsciously. So if I tell my close friend, say, my man, I love my wife to my heart. The reason I love her is because this reason. And that friend betray my trust and tell a third party, and that information gets out, guess who's responsible? I'm responsible for it. Because I took it out of my mouth and provided that information to that third party.
Yeah.
I should have kept my room, my home things at home. But I told somebody else. And that person betrayed me. Okay, so I have to live with the consequence of that. But for us to sit down here and try to make this, you guys are blowing this thing too big. It's not a big deal. I swear to God, it's not a big deal. There are information. So let me just end up with this. To say that people can write about somebody. And the Bible said that's not true. Because somebody can actually sit and just write a smear. Just look online. Look at some of the smear campaign against celebrities and presidents around the world.
What does it make it morally right, though?
People write that all the time. All the time people write that. But when you are at a certain level in life, you don't pay attention to that because it doesn't bring any value. You ignore it because every time you pay attention to it, you create a space for that person to get more popular and get more audience. So back to
a public figure, right?
Yeah,
Dr. Boto, let me move on to Tavina. Dr. Boto, let's move on to Tavina and hear Tavina what catch your heart.
We still won't catch your heart. I like what Perfect Manager said.
Tamina,
So,
we're going to the next one. It's about you now. What catch your hat? We're finished with
what
Boto.
catch my heart?
Yeah.
Well, we move to another piece of thing that catch my heart. Well, let's forget about this book, and then nobody give it a publication. I mean, publicity yet because it's already down to $15 or whatever it is. So it's going slowly. It's going to die naturally. But especially chapter 13. But what catch my heart? The next thing that catch my heart here is this bicentennial that's coming up. Yesterday, day before, I saw that whoever in charge, or I would say the government of Liberia, invited P Square, or for them to perform at the bicentennial. And I was taken aback. Actually, I was offended by that, because if it's something about our country, our 200-year celebration, then from start to finish, it must be about us on that program. Now you can invite people to attend, but we have artists in Liberia. They're doing well. They are thriving, and it will be a good thing for you to showcase your own. If it was the reverse, Nigeria would not be calling Liberian artists to be on the bicentennial or historical event like that. So that one really catch my heart.
Thank you. And the bicentennial, it continues the whole year. And what they will tell you is, hey, we are inviting other people.
It doesn't matter.
All right. So Dr. Boto, what's your take? The government is inviting P Square.
Most people will think that inviting P Square, as we are seeing right now on social media, there is a social media storm about the invitation of P Square. But I think, in my view, most of these things are done to motivate other people that, oh, okay, if you can see P Square, you can also be like P Square too. It does not mean that the invitation of P Square is there to degrade our musician. No, it's just spicing it up, to spice it up. In the past, we invited when he need Akon, and see what Akon did when he left. Favor came to Liberia. When he left, he brought up a blind musician from our midst. So most of the time when these things happen, we should see it from a positive viewpoint. P Square, they are rich people. Who knows that they might spot a musician in our midst and have a collaboration with that person.
Dr. Boto, let me interject. What Tavina is saying is not that you can't invite P Square, but she's talking about the historic event, which is the bicentennial, and you are showcasing P Square. So it's almost like chapter 13. You're comparing Liberian musician to P Square, and you say P Square. What's your response?
Okay, let me pass on that one. Let me give it to Morris.
All right, Kumar.
Yes.
P Square is for Liberian historical bicentennial. In the first place, I don't know why we're calling that bicentennial, but that's a different issue.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead and your take.
Actually, like I say, I don't promote. I don't know who P Square is. I believe, okay, he's an artist.
From Nigeria.
They are.
Nigerian celebrities.
Two Nigerian artists. They are brothers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but you see, it goes again bicentennial. It comes back to our frame of mind and the way we think. We follow they say, we don't analyze, and we put others ahead of ourselves. If this is bicentennial, I'm not saying you should not invite people, but bicentennial, 200 years of Liberia, and you're looking at it in this whole perspective. I think the stars of this occasion should be Liberians. The stars.
Thank you.
So historically, you need to go back. Who are we? Mm-hmm. How far we've come? Mm-hmm. What is it that we're talking about culture here? The mindset right here. Yep. What's the message? Artists and dancing and singing, they have a message. We would love to see Liberians. I'm not saying, but to be high profile. Nigeria will never have a bicentennial or whichever country and make others primary.
Never.
Neither Ghana. Never. So let's come back to that. So I'm not following this bicentennial. I don't know whatever that is. It's frustrating. But just to make a take of it, how many Liberians in how many of us in the 15 counties actually know what's going on?
No.
And even those that are the committees, how deep are they going? What are we looking at? Here we are trying to find ourselves, understand our own culture, where we come from, who are we? We're struggling to find unity. Struggling to find a language or dialect, a common dialect. We're struggling to find a uniform way of dress. And then we say we're having this one, P5 or P10. I don't know wherever. I don't know. My take here is I'm watching, I'm listening. I wish, just like here, he mentioned, say, what about what is in there? The culture, we respect women and we don't talk about women. People carry lies. Liberia's history, Liberia's political culture is all about who speaks the loudest, who says the meanest things, okay? And we applaud such people. Those who try to bring reality and be focused on certain things, they say, oh, we're not listening to them. So on this matter, I'm not worried about P5, whatever that is, but in a centennial, whatever it is, what's happening to a man and his wife? What's happening to our president and the way we're caring about it? That shows the ugliness of what we've inherited in the way we think and look at things. You know?
Thank you. Thank you. Perfect manager.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna, honorably walk in the shadows of my two sisters here, saying the same exact thing that they just said. I think the bicentennial, if it is, actually, 200 years, that's still being left for debate. But if the bicentennial celebration is going to be about Liberia, then I honestly believe that we need to celebrate Liberians, Liberian artists. A lot of them are living just from hand to mouth. This is an opportunity to showcase those Liberians. The president can sing. How come the president can bring some of those people and they sing
Exactly.
together on in a collaboration to celebrate the country? Why can't we, showcase some of these old Liberian musicians that started off first,
Right.
so that other people can see those examples and try to, because this is about nationalism, it's about the country and how you connect with your country, that your country of origin. Um, this whole idea of bringing P Square, Liberians are already adapting the Nigerian culture gradually, and you bring in a Nigerian musician, you only creating the opportunity for Liberians to gravitate more towards a Nigerian culture than a Liberian culture.
Yes.
Music is culture. It has to be done in a way that the Liberians themselves can appreciate those opportunities to see what Liberian music tastes like. I'm so glad that the young people way below us, they appreciate Liberian music. They don't listen to plenty of the other music. They really appreciate it. They can sing it word for word. And I always smile when I see Liberians singing like that, because it's a good thing for our society. Our generation, unfortunately, were refugees our whole life. So as a result, we took all these different pieces from all over the place and we brought it back home to our country, and it has affected us gravely. I
Yeah.
totally agree with my two sisters here that it's rather unfortunate.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you're just joining us, this is Focus on Liberia. What catch your heart? We see that what catches Dr. Boto's heart is the ethics of publication, he believes. Chapter 13 is a quotation, and the one who said those things was not mentioned. Tevina, what catches her heart is the invitation of P Square to our bicentennial. This time we go to Kumba. Kumba, what catches your heart?
Well, I think more with gender, women's rights, and governance. The way we see women, the way we portray women and girls, and what is happening to the bodies of women and girls in our country. As we're going to bicentennial and looking at it, we have one of the highest sexual and physical abuses of women in Liberia, all over, every day. And we still have not been able to pass laws to bring perpetrators to justice. We talk about women in governance. We talk about politics, but women are being used as just letting women see themselves as more political animals instead of standing up and fighting for what we believe. it's like taking women in spaces of governance. And when the women get there, the power is very limited. So how do you change? How do you affect policy? All right. We are the whole country, creating an embarrassing situation for nothing. Creating an embarrassing situation. And they think that they're doing it for the good of the country. You have to take the resource, you embarrass the country. You put in a security apparatus. You take the resources of the country to go after what somebody hacked up as a security risk. Women go out there. We are discussing bodily parts, how it is said, instead of how the body is being damaged, how the mind is being destroyed. So how do you think women and girls will be able to be part of this governance structure to bring about change? You have to sit at the table. You have to be at the same table on an equal part to talk to see what goes on into the lives of women and the nation. We respect women so much. All our mothers, our sisters, do not talk about how this way yet. When it comes to making the hard decisions to protect and save women and girls, we don't do it. They say let the women go talk. There's not one national legislative, not one act, not one law that has been passed on domestic violence to protect women, to save women, to end FGM, female genital mutilation. They say, oh, you can't talk about it. You cannot. It's in our culture. It's in our culture to remove the body part of a woman, of a girl, again to control her sexuality. That's why we don't talk about all those things. You always say men talk about vagina. You talk about vagina, but you dancing quietly and removing a part of a woman that makes her whole. Again, we go back to the Bible. I like your quotation from the Bible. When the Bible talks about the wife of your youth, enjoy your wife. Now, it doesn't make it right that you should go and discuss your wife, because what is private should be private. But in case I confide in a friend and they go in and share what I'm talking about, it doesn't make me, I may have been irresponsible, but it doesn't mean that I was out there to degrade my partner. I was just sharing my thoughts, my joy about my wife, how we satisfy each other.
And Kumbal, before you end, when this happened, when the body part is being described in chapter 13, the people that led the fight against this, the gender minister, a woman, came out with a press conference. And then you have the vice president also came up, to boldly speak against that. And then we also have the cultural ambassador, Judy Andy, and 15 other women from the 15th subdivision of the country. What does that tell you about what you were saying? It means women at the table, women are leading the fight, or women are being used to carry on this political agenda of somebody else.
Definitely, in many ways. And that is why, as we have to move away from women or women, or just generalizing, oh, you're talking about women, or you don't respect women. We have to move from that level to where we think intellectually, where we analyze, at this point in time. The Ministry of Gender, we have the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Let me put as women. So I have my executive, which is the chief of diplomacy, the chief diplomat. You have the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. We have over 28 missions around the world. So the man, you cannot separate as much the man, George Weah, from the man, the president. If you do hear that there's a book being written or something, You must have been able at some point to have a machinery out there to bring it to your attention so that even the Ministry of Gender and Children's Development and Social Welfare is able to get that material and analyze it and critique it in a way that before someone who already had a different motive puts it out in the public to have all of us embarrassed, as if to say we don't know what's happening, to make somebody look bad, or someone wants to take credit. I think that is ignorance. I think that is sycophancy. I think that is a way to exploit the bodies of women, and that has to stop. At the highest level, it has to stop. You know, the public is fed so many ugly things, and we have not been able to achieve. In the legislature, we only have, I think, 9 women. We try to pass the affirmative action. They say, oh no, they made a laughing stock of it. In the executive, you barely have 15% of women representation. Now, you know, the president is doing okay, but when they say okay, it's not okay. The last administration, we told the last administration the same thing. It's not okay. It's not okay. And it's not okay to govern when almost 50% of your population to this very date in this 21st century, and not because we're not qualified, not because we don't have the experience, they're not there. But then the question here is, and someone will say, but the ones that we got there, how come they not do anything? Okay, doesn't matter. But you have men who there, 90% of the men out there, they do nothing anyway. So that's not what we're talking about here. You know, so I'm saying equalize it, and the issues that we talk about, we need to really be sensitive to our culture, sensitive to women, and stop to weaponize the issues of women for political gain, for financial gain. I blame people who take advantage of the gullibility of people of the society and flood insensitive material or messages out there to divide us. And as a woman, as an activist, you know, what is going on now and talking about the first day, it's private matter. Leave the Madam First Lady alone. Leave her husband alone. You know, it's none of our business. You don't want to buy the book, don't buy it. But don't go making you're making too much noise. There's too much noise. And when it comes to women, they say after 1 week, everything died down. Then we are left to deal with the embarrassment. We are left to go talking out to our girls, our women, to explain all of this trauma.
Thank you, Kumar. Morris, to what Kumar is saying.
Yes.
And I like the way she used weaponize the woman's body. I believe even chapter 13, if that chapter 13 was about a man being described, I don't think the backlash would be this wild. So to Kumar's point, or do you see women actually participating, or we are only focused on when a woman body is mentioned, and then the main things that affect women are not even highlighted or do not receive equal attention, like the rape issue and so on? Your take?
Thank you. This is a sensitive topic, and if we're going to be honest, we have to speak to the issues just as we understand it, right? I'm a big champion for women issues because I only have sisters. I have no brother. I got 3 sisters, and I have no brother at all. So I'm a big, champion for women issues. I think, in all honesty, we missed the boat when President Salif was president of Liberia. As a female, the first African female president, the first female president of Liberia. That was an excellent opportunity for women to be mainstream all across government.
Correct.
At least we should have had 60% of the superintendents in the country to be women. Maybe 50% of our cabinet should have been women. because the other positions in the legislature, they are elected positions. It's difficult to just, election, you got to put your name on the ballot and the people got to say, okay, like you will won. So it's difficult to decide that one there. But in the place where the president has an authority, I think, she should have used that to really, really mainstream women into public office. In Rwanda got 60% of Paul Kagame's cabinet. They are women, 60%, the highest in the entire region, on the entire continent.
Mhm.
That's
In South
excellent.
Africa, 45% of the people in parliament, they are women. So it's a major issue that needs to be addressed. But the other thing is, to be honest, is our women too in Liberia are not coordinating with each other properly. It seems like everybody get their own small pocket, and nobody wants to say, okay, let's do this thing here collectively, because in politics and in leadership, the number matters. So imagine if all the women say, okay, today, nobody going to parliament today, unless women issues are discussed, unless we pass a no rape law. We're not let nobody enter the legislature today. We block that whole place for 1 week and see what happened. But it's difficult because the women too, they're not speaking to each other. They haven't created that opportunity. At some point in Liberia, we had a justice minister that was a female. We had a gender minister, and there were strong laws passed against rape. I remember when they were arresting men all over the place for rape, and there was no bail. You can't be bailed out. You have to go to prison and stay there until your trial date. And most of the people in prison in Liberia, at least 70% of them are pre-trial detainees. They're just in there. They haven't gone to court yet. So people are afraid. Unless we start to streamline these things in a strategic way, it's going to be extremely difficult because we have whether we agree or not, it's a patriarchy society.
It is. It
It's,
is.
most African countries are patriarchy. It's a man's world, and for women to fight, they have to fight in tangent and in a strategic and coordinated way. Otherwise, it's going to be difficult. When you have a woman that's doing well, everybody rally behind her. When she get there, you make sure she streamline other people behind her. That's how you do it. One going in front will push another one. Another one go will push another one. Keep doing it until you get to where you want to get. I guess that's my take on it.
I think you kind of right in that, but also and what it tells us also that women, just like men, they are human beings. At the end of the day, they come with their own desires. They have their own agendas, and so what you see is not unique to women. It's unique to men. It's not unique to women alone, because when people want power, when people want to be heard, when people think, it's like you cook food. I remember when I had a school in Ghana at a refugee camp, and a quick situation was that I wanted to feed all the kids. They should have lunch every time. It took almost 2 months for the kids to realize that there was a plate for everyone. There was a plate for everyone, because for the first few weeks, as they saw the food coming, it was like they were willing to start fighting for it. They didn't think it would reach to them.
Yeah, but Kuma, the point I'm making here is that there are other segments of the population that are not mainstream at all. Think about women with disability. Think about just imagine a woman that is sitting in a wheelchair. How that woman get access to healthcare? How she get access to security? How she get access to anything in Liberia in the broad scheme of things? I mean, it's convenient for us to move around and do other things. But think about a woman that has a child that is probably 4 or 5 years old, and she's bound to a wheelchair, or she's blind, or she can't walk. Think about that woman, how she living, how she managing in Liberia.
Right.
The women themselves need to be an advocate for those women first before we
I
start.
think they have.
And Maurice, you are right. But what Kuma is saying is that's the society we have. So it's
Yeah.
not unique to any segment of
It's,
the population.
exactly.
And
It's
it-
not
it-
unique.
But
And it's
So you
also
don't.
the point I'm
Let
talking
me,
about
let me
change.
go to Tavina. Tavina, how can we use what has happened in chapter 13? I go back to the book.
Why you want to publicize it? Why you want to publicize this book?
There's nothing wrong with that. So how can we use
we
what
might
has
as
happened?
well.
how can we use what has happened to talk about it, to raise the women issues that Kumar is talking about? Because every issue like that presents an opportunity to turn things around. How can we do
Yeah.
that?
Exactly. So there are a lot of a lot of takeaways from the book. The first thing is that we have to learn to that, coming from Mr. Weir, I have no doubt that he said what he said, what is quoted there, unless he can come and speak up and say, I didn't do it. But as it stands to this, that I feel he did it. So another thing to know that you cannot discuss your significant other, even to your best friend, in a certain way. You can't discuss people that you're being intimate with, have soul ties with, a certain way. And that goes to even my friend women, my fellow women. Women do the same thing too. Some of them, they discuss when they, have those relationships, whether divorced or, separated, or even stay with a relationship. They leave on there, go talk about the person's body parts. It's just not a good thing. It's not a good thing to do. So I think that's another learning experience. And even writing. We all, people can say, oh, I will write. I think the authors were so overconfident because I don't even think that they give those books, that book to better reviewers or professional reviewers to review the book, or to even ask to tell them, say, because if you give that book to a professional reviewer, they will ask you, who your audience? What are you trying to accomplish? And based on that, they were going to critique the book and say, you know what, I think you need to wordsmith this. I think you need to do this, and whatever it is, and giving our culture, giving the all the complications around it. I think that's another takeaway that we need to learn from that. We need to learn from that. And so, and our women, so I think that if any good would come out of it would be, maybe the people to say, oh, Liberian women or African women or women as a whole, or sometimes when you're in the member, people like, oh, you wear ginger, I say, or you pour a bodysuit to sleep, that cooking for the man is just not enough. That you need to be more. You need to add more flavor to the sauce. But the way that they said it so raw, like I said on another platform, we're growing up, we read Danielle Steele and some other love story that they would have put it in a way that people would learn from it. Even relationships, people would learn from it and say, I think I need to step up my game. I need to do this. But the way it was said, it was just done in a very derogatory, a very demeaning way to women, first lady, and like women, as a whole. So that's all I have to say about that.
Dr. Boto, women issue the issue of rape, sexual gender-based violence, and things that just in the span of a month, we have one 13-year-old sodomized to death. We have another issue of a girl being sodomized, and they were even trying to cover it up when they went to the police station and said, pay $30 even before we locked the case. So there are burning women issue. In my own Sino County, 2 women accused of rape were paraded in their nude. There was another instance where a guy used caustic soda on a wife and sealed it with super glue. So there are burning women issues that are not being discussed, and then we are just following the smoke screen and chasing things down the rabbit hole of things that really shouldn't get all that attention compared to what we're supposed to be focusing on. What will you advise in that direction? If you can unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you. I think a society cannot be built with 10 bricks at the same time. We start brick by brick. And when something is wrong, it is just wrong. I will go back to your any statement before coming up war. The book, I wanted to make an example with Megan's case. Megan wrote a letter to her father, and that letter was intercepted by tabloids. Tabloid took some portion of that letter, private letter that was written to her father, and published it. She got angry and took tabloid to court. Some people say, oh no, not tabloid. But the fact is, it is a private letter. You can't invade someone's privacy, whether we like it or not. You cannot evade the person's privacy. A letter, what was said, it was said in in a coded manner. I want to use the computer term. It was said by George Weah. Let's assume he said it. He said it to a particular person. The one who intercepted it and wrote about it has to come clean. Today, as we speak, tabloid will pay $2 per every book, every publication they did on Megan's case. She won the case January 6th this year, the case that had been in court for 13 years. I'm just bringing this to say that when a person's privacy is invaded, no matter who he is, we must say it. The first family's privacy was invaded. We like it or not, was invaded. Back to the issue of rape. Rape had been in our society from the day Liberia itself was created. It started with our forefathers. Our forefathers would go in a village without.
Let me stop you. Let me stop you there, because that premise.
I'm coming in.
But the same thing with the way the first lady had been described, or that chapter 13, it has happened from the beginning with our forefathers. So I want you to mention that too.
Okay, chapter 13 took place. Okay, started with our forefathers.
Okay, so go ahead.
But we are now correcting the wrong. We are correcting that wrong. That wrong that started from the beginning, we are correcting it today. And it should start from somewhere.
Good.
The rape that started taking place from our forefathers, what happened is that our society believes in concealing. We believe in hiding it. There are several people out there that have been raped, but they are afraid or scared to come forward to just say it. It's hard. And it needs intensive education in areas that it had not happened. There's what we call community partnership. We can partner with the community and say, look, if someone sleeps with you without your will, without your acceptance, it is rape. Let's just say it as it is. If someone marries you out to someone that you don't love, we can also say that it is trafficking. Yes. And most in our society right now, some of our mothers were trafficked from one town to another. If the family will agree.
Dr. Voto, time is fast spent. But let me say, the issues that we know, those rape cases that come up, like the 13-year-old who was sodomized to death, like the 13-year-old they took to court. We have a roadmap. The president is the feminist in chief. That's the issue I want us to talk about.
But we have had demonstration on rape several times.
Well, I'm talking about like
public awareness.
The outrage this book has received.
Not the rape, the reaction, the gender and the women in authority, or the what they call traditional women took less than 24 hours, a bit 48 hours.
You saw the demonstration that took place about Stop Rape, West Celito part, where we're across the country.
So what attention?
We're talking about the time it took for them to react to this, the excerpt from this book.
Yeah.
It was rapid. We see Senator DeLong change his profile picture to the first lady.
Yeah.
I didn't see that.
Solidarity. It's solidarity.
Right. I'm saying compared to SGBV, we don't see that level of solidarity.
We do.
Okay.
We do. That was say you saw the demonstration that took place from Celita up to when the minister, when a lawmaker from Grand G, that supposedly raped a girl. There were series of demonstrations throughout.
But Dr. Boto, just to Dennis' point of the child being raped to death, as we say, they had a funeral just last week. The general minister wasn't there. The vice president wasn't there. Claudia wasn't there. Neither were heads of government. They were not, for the most part, not there.
Yeah.
But, and also on their website, on gender page, because I follow them like on a daily basis. On their website, there was no speech or any press release condemning such action or anything, or even empathizing or sympathizing with the family. But look at the reaction. We have a roadmap to Dennis' point. that have been sitting forever. It has not been implemented, not even 25%. In addition, you have a gender ministry where we pretty much have been begging for years and say, give us press briefing. Just call the press weekly and just give us status how many cases are being persecuted, what the status of cases, the work that you guys doing, and ask, go, or have press conferences and ask people for the feedback. None of that. But in 48 or 72 hours, she comes up with this speech, and so I read about this first lady.
Okay.
Then so with the other women. I mean, then you say it's not being. I mean, the women issues are being handled the same way. I disagree.
Okay. Let me give you an example. When she took over, a week later, she brought 147 women to the U.S. for training that she took from across the country.
She as in who?
We're talking about the gender minister.
What year was that?
That was about 3 years ago.
Uh-huh.
They attended the UN Human Rights Conference in New York.
And how is that impacting the numbers today at the increase of cases that we're seeing, as well as the implementation of the roadmap, which we know is dusting?
Yeah, I'm coming. She brought these women in so that the ideology or whatever they will learn from here will help the women back home. But when these women came, 60 out of the 140 ran away.
Right. And that's the point, right? Because
I rest my case.
I
want to
move on. Talk about this one.
If you want to address a problem that you don't understand, that's what happens.
So she brought people and said, okay, you're like women, you're from your town, and you gotta go.
Dr. Boto, you are not really addressing when I say this perspective is getting more attention from prominent women in our society than the rape issue. Then the people are being raped to death. This time now, a 5-year-old, the guy will use razor blades so that he can fit. These are the things we are facing. And you were saying they brought women to the States?
I'm talking about how these women have come back into our society.
They brought women to the States.
Let me
end. Just feed me on what he said. I'm not hearing the both of them.
Yeah, Dr. Boto is saying the minister is taking steps. She brought 100 women to the States to study about gender issue 3 years ago, and out of the 160 ran away. And your thought, Dr. Boto, and let's see what these prominent women are doing.
So if these women had collectively worked together and taken the issue for which they were brought here seriously, and
it didn't happen.
Back, yes. So that starts with us looking at the women working together, not just one person working. She took a step. Say, okay, send this issue are taking place in your community. You let go and learn how the other people can solve the problem.
That did not
that was 3 years ago, but every year we get gender allotment. We get them budgetary allotment, tax dollars. That was 3 years ago. Tell us something new.
She's back again on the table. How
to bring another 133?
To bring another 50 again to run away.
It is. Here's the problem. One of the biggest problems we have in Liberia is that when we identify an issue, we leave the issue with the group of people that are affected by it to address it. That is unfortunate. When the women talk about not being, being at a disadvantage of not being mainstream, it is not a woman problem. It's a Liberia's problem. All of us men should take the forefront and be a part of it to push an agenda that create equality across the gender, because technically 50% of the population are women and 50% are men. Men shouldn't take over everything in the country. There should be an equilibrium between the two group of people that are within the country. But same thing goes to disability issue. When we say disability issue in the country, we want the disabled people to go and champion for themselves. All of us sit there and watch them. Oh, that disabled people are making noise over there. Oh, that is zogo people are making. So we are not participating collectively. And because we don't participate collectively, we can't say, oh, okay, the women should do. All of us should participate in it because it is not good for our country. In good governance, there has to be an equal participation across the different segments of the population.
Thank you, Maurice. Let's take a short break. When we come back, then we come to you. What catch your hat?
Yeah.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jar.
February 8, 2022, I will have an exclusive with William Sanvi, aka 2Key. He's a musical artist, songwriter, producer, and performer. You don't want to miss it. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Focus on Liberia. What catch your hat? This time we go to Perfect Manager Maurice Kruman to tell us what's the one issue that keep you up at night.
Dennis, thank you again. So is this whole noise about the young people that are in Liberia that are called zogos? It seems like we as a country have turned our backs to a population that is yearning for our help and our support, and the state have turned it back on those people. The population have turned it back on people, and those people are in the broader population. Their only means of survival is to commit crime. They steal people's cell phones, they break into people's cars, they steal stuff. Some of them get arrested, they go to jail, they come back outside, they go back to the same old life. And the population is growing. In 2013, 2014, there were around 50,000. My estimate right now is there are around 140,000 people that are affected with drugs. The state have not been able to control the drug trafficking that is happening in the country. And every time the drug is trafficked through the country, I believe honestly that there are security agency members that are involved with that kind of transaction, and it's more and more is putting the young people at a disadvantage, and that population is growing. And so that population is posing a serious security and national security threat to everybody in the country. Whether you're a minister, you deputy minister, you private citizen, you're a young child going to high school, they pose a threat to all of us. So it is incumbent on especially our public officials, especially the national legislature, to really do something about these young people. It's not costly to help them, to get them rehabilitated and make them productive citizens. I'm almost certain that we have those same kind of population in America here, but the state has been able to manage them in a way that they are required to go through some kind of rehab, often, regularly, so that they get the help that they need to become productive citizens. Unlike our country where our lawmakers are putting $30,000 in a pocket every year, while our citizens, are roaming the streets looking for help, and the state is not providing that support to them.
And Maurice, do we really know what happened to these people? Why is it that they are? Because they have become almost like a criminal gangs in this area. Do we know? Have we been able to establish what really is the root cause?
So, ideally, when the war ended in 2005, 2003, when the war ended, there was a DDR program that was supposed to rehabilitate young people that came out of the crisis. They turn in a gun, they get some money, they put them through some kind of rehabilitation, put them through training, they get them equipment, and they go and become productive citizens. That is the whole theory of DDR, right? In Liberia case, it did not happen that way. Most of them went through the process, they registered, they went through some kind of quasi rehabilitation. They did not go through rehabilitation. So they brought them, took the guns from them, they registered them, and then they put them through 1 day, 2 day training and say, hey, my man, yeah, some shovel, yeah, some go make garden, and you have $200, you put in your pocket and go make garden. So they did not withdraw from, the thing that they were addicted to during the Liberian Civil War. Those people filter into the communities. And as a result of them being there, they also had significant influence on the other young people that were there that started to come closer to them, and they started injecting the same thing that the other people that came from the war started taking. So that population that came from the war that was so small, it started growing over time. And now if you go into every single major city in the country, whether that Ganta, that Zwedru, that Kakata, you'll find young people all across these different segments of society that are, that are drug addicts that need help, and the country needs to do something about it. Definitely do something about it.
Thank you. And up to date, do we know? And anyone can respond. Do we know that any program or anything being done by central government to address this issue?
Let me just say something onto that. Somehow, we keep spinning spinning around, and we keep all these problems keep facing us. We keep asking ourselves, and we seem not to be able to find a solution. First of all, to be able to institutionalize what we're talking about. There used to be the Ministry of Gender, Children, and protect social welfare. That's the institution. Before, I remembered during Madam Seli's administration, when the Ministry of Social Welfare was blended in with the Ministry of Gender. I felt very bad about that. Somehow, when it was brought to my attention, I knew that that was the wrong way to go. That coming from the war, more than ever, you needed a stand-alone institution to be able to deal with social issues. That's why we have social welfare. To look at not just to look at all these deviant behaviors. Then you have the DEA. So then we have a social welfare entity that is now blended with the Ministry of Gender and Development. Those are two key areas, of the Republic where its citizens are, and they are the most affected. And then you have a blended entity. So when you talk about the boys, the rehabilitation, of course, some have gone on. We know that some were rehabilitated. We know that it takes a very long time to have mechanisms put into place to be able to put the young men and young women. It's difficult when you have developed a habit and to get rid of it. It's not a 1 month, 2 months, or 3 months, or go take them for training. After that, you don't have anywhere to go. You have infrastructure problem. That is, you have a housing problem. You have families that have broken apart. You have people that have left the different counties because of the war, and after returning, they realized that there was no so-called life in the Lee War counties. So everybody, for example, a bulk of them are into the city, the capital city of Liberia. No jobs.
So, my sister, I want to speak to that. I honestly, feel when I said that they're affected, I named cities, Ganta, Kakata, these are other cities that are outside of the country that they still have people that are considered zogos that are in those cities as well. So it's not just urbanization. It's not just urbanization that is causing people to come to the city and become, addicts to drugs. I do understand the point you're coming from. I understand it. I see what you're saying. However, there are two things, there are two mechanisms that need to be addressed immediately. One is for the government to have some sort of control on drug trafficking happening in Liberia. The government needs to seize the motion. They need to seize control of that. Unless that situation is controlled, you will continue to have young people that are going to continue to add to that population. And then once you have a control over drug coming in and out of the country, then now you start to focus on the population now and say, okay, we need to deal with the population community by community. Don't forget now, you have communities in Liberia that are heavily congested. Nuclear Town, Logan Town, Clara Town. Those places are the places that are hotbed for drug addicts. So you need to go into those communities and start to create programs around them so that they can get the help that they need. If you want to take them out of the community and move them into a somewhere exclusive and provide a treatment for them, then yes, we can do that. But to say the government don't have the ability,
No, what I got you. What I'm saying is that we need to, we can packet it. Programs, what they need to be institutionalized, first and foremost. You have to have entities that will deal with the problems. So we have the DEA. How effective it is what we need to be concerned about. Is it effective? What's causing? Why is it that? And all over the world, Liberia is not just unique to it. Everywhere we have drug problems. It happens that the poverty rate, when you have poverty, when you do not have jobs available, when you do not have housing, when you do not have opportunities for young people, the world is now a global village. So young people are exposed to a lot of things. Where do you channel their energy? So I think what we can address we need to address the short term. When there needs to be a commitment for a longer term of how we address those social issues through the institutions and through allocations of budgets, and that takes a commitment of the leaders that we put in office, the legislators as well. Where do we put our money? When the same question comes to women. How do you value women when you're not investing in those things that are supposed to save and protect women? How do you value the youth when we have so much, so many of our boys and girls roaming all over the place? You will never end drugs, but we can fight to make sure and control it. And one way to be able to do that is it has to be done simultaneously. You have to create a safety zone. You have to create opportunities for them. You have to be able to have institutions that will help to rehabilitate them. Not on a short time, it's a long time. And after that, how do they pass on to different? So I think it's a bigger problem, and it's a governance issue as well. We can only keep, I think, and that's what upsets me when we put our eyes, when we focus on the little things, not so much of little, and move our eyes from the bigger issues that are affecting us.
Exactly.
And we become very political. We become very political in the sense that we want to be politically connected. We want to be seen. We want to benefit. And so we play sycophancy to the leadership at all levels. Those who are coming in want to those who want to come, everybody want to be president, but we don't have a blueprint to understudy the current administration or even past to understand those dynamics that have made them not to be so effective, and that got us where we are at this point. I think, so that's it.
Let me go to Tavina. Time is fast spent. Tavina, this whole zogo's issue and the war, yes, it's a big part of it. We also see that the kids that are there now, some were not even born when the war stopped.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so the population keep growing. I had someone who visited, say, as far back as early 2000, there were zogos in all 15 counties. Now it's worse.
Yep.
What do we do?
It all starts to budgetary allocation, prioritizing what matters the most. So I think it starts from the tax dollar, from the budget. This should be the highest priority. When we do risk assessment and do, annual plan and stuff, we look at all these things, for our, for government, because of course that's why I live and read government. And so we look at those things and see what should we look at first, what should we look at second, and that's how we do our honor plan. So the zogo issues, this is a generation stuff. So putting more money there to get them off the street, to empower them, to educate them, and so with the hospitals, and so with education. So it has to do with what matters the most to the country and the people who framing this budget or who making all these allocations. So I think the money, the tax dollars, should be spent for what really matters, and not for legislative engagement, or for somebody for campaign purposes, or to shield it to carry on fraudulent activities and corruption. I think the money, the tax dollar, need to go to the right places. And like I said, those 3 areas, that's it. That can solve the problem.
I've heard this before, so I see this from this call. It says the Zogos are not disadvantaged young people. They get high and decide to act stupid due to their habit. People are sometimes blaming, these people. Oh, don't mind them. In fact, they don't see like addiction has a problem. That, Dr. Boto, do you see when it comes to this issue of Zogos, as they call them, do you see the government doing enough to solve this issue?
Okay, thank you very much. I don't know what one will turn enough or not enough, but the issue of zogo is a global problem. Let's look at America. America, with all the resources, America being the highest economy in the world, has the highest number of zogos. Philadelphia records the 10th largest of zogos in the country and 13 in the world. So it's not so much about government issue. It's about individual preference. Most of these zogos, they go into it not because, I'm looking at the American perspective before I bring it home. It's not because to the extreme that they don't have jobs or they have jobs. Statistics in America have shown that most of the people who turn zogo today in America, they were once upon a time well educated people. They have good jobs and gradually drift into being zogo because the money they had, they start misusing them and become zogo and end up in the street. When you go to LA, half of the
In
people,
other words, it's their fault.
it's choice. It's not for
That's the choice they made to smoke.
Yeah, the choice they made.
Wow.
So it's not like
That's interesting.
That's wrong information. That's wrong information.
Hold on. Let Dr. Boto learn.
yeah, it's the choice. So for us to solve this problem, we got to take away that element that is the government has to do it. Government has to do. It's a societal problem that we all have to solve together.
And what do you advise? How do we solve it?
Thank you. We as people, we can start from family. You see your brother going down, the families can intervene. The community, you see.
How does the family intervene?
Let's say my brother is a Zoko. We, the family, can call him and say, look, my man, this way you're going is the wrong way. Educate him about the choices he's making. We can also help him out.
And if he doesn't
listen, we then look for educational means.
Do you understand that some of those zogos are dealing with addiction, and addiction is not just talking?
Hold on, Tavina.
Not coming now. It is the choice that leads them to be addicted.
It's not a choice. Someone that has some bad experiences. I got separated from my husband, and because of that relationship, it impacted me so much, and I started to drink and smoke. So I need to be rehabilitated. And to your point, America has created a pathway. We're not saying reduce it to 100%. You cannot reduce the risk to 100%. But what you can do is you can minimize the risk. And that's what we're saying. Bring it down to the acceptable level. Use state resources. The pathway is there. So goes everywhere. I got those right up my street in Texas here. There's a choice. They will go in and out of the facility. Someone else will decide to forever be paying handlers or be in the street. That's fine with them. But you know what? Their pathway, when they decide to be clean, they know there's pathway for them to be clean.
And,
So we can
you
be
know,
giving
so
misinformation here.
I just want to
No,
piggyback.
hold on.
But when I
Dr.
pick up
Boto, I
my
want you
topic,
to end your
everybody
thought.
hit me up. Boom.
No, because he's spreading misinformation, and that's
No,
unacceptable.
no, I said
We
America.
are in America.
The misinformation. America has the highest zogo in the world.
No, but there's pathway.
I come in now.
There
It's
is
the highest zogo
pathway,
in the world.
and they don't
Is
have
it
pathway because
misinformation?
they don't have
No,
money
Are we
anymore.
blaming the American government for? Are we going to
We're
blame the
not
American
blaming.
government
We're
for
not
having the
blaming.
highest zogo
And
in the
we're not
world?
comparing ourselves to America. We're speaking for the
So
people in
I'm
our
saying
country.
zogo.
Dr. Boto, nobody blame the government. We say, what can the government do? You are
The government
saying
must lead.
you are saying the
People
government
cannot
doesn't have to
lead.
do anything because these
No, I
people
didn't
have
say
made a
that.
choice.
I didn't say that. I said we got to first take it away, take that notion of government away, and start from the community, from the
The
community.
greater responsibility always starts from government. They set the tune, and everybody supports.
Dr. Boto, can I speak to the
You see, when I say that, everybody hate it all.
I
I
finished.
gave you statistics. I gave you an
Hold on,
example.
Dr. Boto. I want you to conclude. What role can the government play in this?
Okay, the government can help based on the request of the community,
Of the family.
let's look at America. We have various NGOs that are helping Zogos to come out. So what the government does, it funds these NGOs because the NGO remain request. The government always have, like right now in Liberia, we have grants for that. So if you have your NGO and you request for rehabilitation grant, the government will open up for you. But most of the time, people believe that government can come in and say, "Oh, you leave the Zogo street." No, the community has to start the foundation.
Right.
Then
Like
the government
in the
fund.
case Nuclear Town, the way they created 30 people, then the Nuclear Town people join and say, "Okay, let me go to Morris."
Yeah, Dr. Boto, I wanted to speak to some of the things that you were talking. So
Okay.
when you mentioned America and how there are people here that are addicts, that is true.
Yeah.
But the government got social safety net for these for these people. You agree?
I agree with that. But
Okay.
I'm not saying it's not a sole responsibility of the American government.
It is their responsibility. The reason the government
not so. Let me let the word is so.
Your
Just
citizen,
give me let me see
your
what
citizen is not your
because you didn't give me
responsibility.
chance to, so I gotta hit the same way.
No, I listen. I didn't say anything when you're speaking. I didn't say
Okay.
anything. I listen. So the government creates social safety net for their citizens. Every citizen in a country, it is the government's sole responsibility to provide security for them and to ensure that they are safe and they are protected under the law. If you don't provide care, it's not. Think about it this way: if you don't provide care to what you call Zogos in Liberia, and that number continue to grow, you're providing insecurity for the other people that are not. So what happens is, if that number continues to grow, people can't get what they want. You know what they'll do? Your child are going to school in the morning, they will hijack that child and get the child in the warehouse and call you and say, if you don't get all this amount of money, your child not going. They hold your child's ransom. And then it creates security, it creates insecurity. So even the lawmaker himself that going to work in the morning, there's potential that those people can stop that lawmaker and get out of his car or him or all of them and carry all of them and say, if you get the money here, you're not going. So they create insecurity for everybody across the country. That's the reason why government has to wait. Give me a chance, please. Give me a chance.
Yeah.
That's the reason why the government has to step in to control that number of people. Because if you don't control it, you create insecurity. So that's the reason why you see American people say, you know what? People gotta do something about them. So for us to do something about them, we say, okay, you're an addict. We'll give you money, but if we'll give you money, you have to go to that program over there every day. Go, you sign in, that report to us that you came here and you took your rehabilitation medicine and you go back in the street, then we'll give you $50. And if you put that with somebody, if you put that kind of program in place, that person knows that a $50 is tied to something. So they will have to go there. If they go there, that treatment, that injection they give them, it reduces their appetite for more. And they get random testing. So the day you get random tested and you test positive, guess what? You lose your money for the whole month. And nobody want to lose that $50 they're getting. So they'll have to continue to go to the program. You see what I'm saying? But you are saying now that it's not the government responsibility.
No, I didn't say that. I said you guys came in wrongly because I used the word "so." I said it is not the sole responsibility of the government.
Thank you, Dr.
It's not the sole responsibility of the government. It is the responsibility, partnership responsibility with the community.
So whose sole responsibility it is?
It is the responsibility of both the community and the government. So it's not so. So we cannot just work and say, oh, the government. No, we got to also play our part. Like other community and
Thank
other
you.
society.
We have 8 minutes to close, and let's I think you heard about this book by now, the woman's shoe on shattered glass, by guess who? Kumba. So if you are here on YouTube, on Amazon, go on Amazon and buy this book. This was written since 2018. So if you don't have a copy, please do now. And I put our call number up. There's no call yet. Also, we see that we encourage our viewers to watch us on the big screen when you are at home. So let's take a look at Benjamin Jonah is watching the show on his big. Definitely know something about that. Thank you. And up to date, do we know? So if you watch it on your big screen, please send us your screenshot.
That is cool.
All right, time is fast spent. I want us to go around the room and talk about and conclude tonight on what Ketch you had. Before that, let me read a few comments here. Francis Wilson said, Ms. Thompson is making a very good point. We need to take this continuous framing of zogo as former child soldiers. This is a problem of drugs and drug trafficking. Augustine Coty, poverty in Liberia is high, and approximately 83.3% of the population lives on less than $1.25 a day. That is abject poverty. 8% of the population pays 90% of the country's taxes. How can the government focus on these programs when they are limited in revenue? We also see that the government is putting more money into pay and salary. Margaret Dyson, changing the government starts with an election in 2023. Choose a candidate that will help put in place better programs, employ citizens who aren't in it for the pocket, implement programs or head of these ministries who are educated enough, no partial or but education to get our people on the path to heal. So, let me take one caller here who just called in. Kasali Double, what catch your heart? Okay. Kasali Double, what catch your heart?
Almost everything you discussing caught my heart, but I really want to focus mostly on the action taken by the women to carry on protest during the book I was taken by Isaac Bar and Fully. And so, sometimes I think this thing I say that most times we as Nigerians do not prioritize our priorities. We do not set our priorities right. We have our kids in our country because I can remember what they last year when the general minister had a press conference. And in that press conference, she stated that they have over 1,000 rape cases on the docket. Nothing, absolutely nothing has been heard of it. There was no protest. Those very women who are protesting today did not know that there were rape cases on the docket. But then, why is it that I am not going to show up the book that Isaac God wrote? I would never write such a book like that. Especially the format in which he's putting in those warnings. I wouldn't use them. But for them to have been that overzealous, to have gone to protest on something like that, I was just waiting, other than the one that happened to our future leader, I was thinking about. So which one is most dangerous? Is it the warning I was waiting, or the one that has destroyed our children completely? So I don't know. Was it for eye service that they were marching for? Or like one of the students just said, is this sort of people thing? I don't get it. But it's a shame. And all of those things are said, this very white lady who is getting our money, who needs it in the budget, with millions of dollars to her, she has never, if she's just around, she has never had a mother make it on her education to rape cases. It is a shame, you know?
Thank you, Kazali.
To put that something I was doing, put that thing. And lastly, I also want to bring the media for some of these things. Because when these things come out, the media will not push these things to the higher extent. But instead, we focus more on the gossip. We focus more on CPP, ANC, or Joseph Walker, United Party, focus more on instead of focusing on this important issue, I will bring change to our society. For real.
Thank you so much. Ivy Tyler said, what are the health and social services for women? All they will respect women. Let it show in policies and practice.
Goodbye.
Tubasi said the president and the first lady can pursue Isaac Vatova and his co-author through a civil court, tort or crime. A lot of comments here. We cannot get to all of them. Zeus Carter, the gross hypocrisy is that Isaac Vatova issue has been magnified simply because it is the first lady. Where were all these so-called advocates when countless females were raped in our society? Call yeah, say you can write an unauthorized biography about people in the public realm, like celebrities and politicians, legally, but you must use correct factual information, and any third-party interviews must be clearly identified as hearsay, unless they are recorded, and these should be legal recordings. You would need to get permission and buy the use rights of any photograph you want to use. The ethics of the situation are a whole other question. If you are factual and present an even view, then she continues. Comfort Henry, where the 60 women ran away, the women that they brought. All right, and then we are sorry we are closing, so we turn the phone lines off before you call. So let's go around the room and just conclude tonight. Let me start with you, Morris.
Dennis, so thank you again for the opportunity to talk about, what catch my heart. And, like I said to all of us, I think this group of our population is growing, and they're posing serious threat to all of us. You will not believe, what may happen unless it start happening. In Nigeria, there are similar situations happening there where there is lawlessness, and the government can't do anything about it now because the situation ran out of control. They don't have any control over it anymore. A small country like Liberia, we should be able to manage this population effectively. Thanks for the opportunity. I'm always, willing to have these kinds of conversations because they're beyond the politics. It has to be, more technical and stuff like that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Let me go to Kumar.
Thank you very much for this time. I read the comments quickly from all the viewers. I think they are very salient points. They touch governance, they touch on women's rights and what needs to be done and what we've done to question ourselves. At the end of the day, I think at this point I want to leave for, to the public and to all of us to reflect on the issues that we have discussed today. We need to reflect on it, to be gender sensitive, to not politicize women issues, and to be more focused. Wherein we help, we help. The president, what is written in this book is a gender issue that we need to look at, but we need not beat it to death and continue to embarrass and use ourselves, and let ourselves be carried away on something that we really, really not need to be focused on. Because at the end of the day, if we want to be able to respect and love women and take our country forward, we have to translate that into policies. We have to translate that into governing structures in many ways. And so the views of the public, I think they speak for themselves. We have a lot of work to do. We need to continue. I'm a diehard women's rights activist. Y'all go on and get my book and leave this other book talk aside 1 minute. I don't think, so if causing too much V and talk problem, go to the book that I have on Amazon. It will help us. Thank you.
Dr. Boto?
Yeah, thank you very much. As I stated from the beginning, we all have the right to write, but when we are writing, we should take into consideration the privacy of the person we are writing about. Get the person consent, if possible. If not, you should state your source so that the public will not experience what we are experiencing right now. with the issue of the zogo my brother Maurice raised. Let us all as Liberians participate or bring ideas on the table how we can solve the problem. And it's not just the government alone. We all, from home, from churches, everywhere, religious leader, anybody you think is all of us our problem. Zogo right now is growing in the world, and we can all do our part to curb the problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Tavina?
So I want to thank Focus on Liberia and everybody else and your viewers for the show tonight. I think it was a good conversation. I'm hoping that people in authority, they were listening or will listen later and take some cues from it to do better. I'm going to sound like Sis Yuna. You know, my daughter and I think Dennis played a video. We recently did a book. It says, Sam learns no means no. A simple book for children teaching them about consent and about inappropriate touching. So while you're on Amazon reading your chapter, trying to buy your chapter 13, make sure to buy our book. Our book. The book is it's $11.95, but it's a good book. I mean, it starts from the home, so teaching the children, all of that. But before I will close with this on the book, we can laugh about it and joke about it, but with all seriousness, I think the authors need to consider an apology. I know one of them sort of apologized, but both of them, hopefully this week, sooner than later, that they will apologize to the First Lady. They will apologize to women as a whole, because they have women in their homes and they have women in their families. And I'm sure they somehow they wouldn't like that content. Flip the table around. If you were writing a story about your wife or about your women in your family, would you have sounded that way? Would you have written that way? So hopefully they will consider that. But in addition, that they will pull the book back. That's one of the requests that I've been saying over and over until I sounding like a broken record. But they will pull the book back, edit chapter 13, and make their millions from it. Many ways to get rich as long as you're doing it illegally. So I hope they will consider that as well. But it was a good show. And guys, thank you for sharing space with you all. Sis Yuna, always a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Moses Mal Richardson, catering to Zogo's need is a crime-fighting mechanism on the government part, Dr. Boto. And also, what catch my heart tonight to close is the dilapidating infrastructures in the country, especially educational institutions. I was born all the way beyond God's holy back in Sino County, and so I pay attention to what goes on in the rural areas. Some of the schools the children are going to, when you see there was a video from a school in Maryland County, and when you saw it, you can't even believe that people can go in that space to learn. And so the structures are collapsing all over the country. Even in central Monrovia, you see the mold covering the building. When I was there 2017, I saw the mold on Sacred Heart Cathedral. I'm like, oh my God. I mean, can somebody just scrape this off? So institutions are dilapidating, and I don't know, even while building new ones, we should look at those ones that are crumbling and rebuild. February is Black History Month, and we at Focus on Liberia, we are part of it. Starting next Sunday, so February 13, 20, and 27, will be about Black history. You don't want to miss that. Right here on Focus on Liberia, where we educate, we elevate, and promote all things Liberia. Until then, from all of us, I want to thank you so much for coming, and thank our viewers, those who are viewing now and those who will even watch later. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, our Facebook page. Visit us on all social media platforms, and you will definitely partner with us as we strive to educate, to elevate, and promote all things Liberia. Until then, let's remember we are all Liberians. Whether you believe the Zogo is the sole responsibility of the government or the community or both, we are all Liberians, and it is incumbent upon all of us to do whatever it takes to make our country the glorious land of liberty. Good night and God bless.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our home. Liberian people. Liberia.